Part of what attracted me to the role, it was kind of like two jobs in one. Rocket is here in Boston. They have not invested in marketing previously. They really didn't need to. They were growing and all their business was like referral based or repeat business. So there's an opportunity to kind of apply a marketing lens to that company, which I think is interesting. They were also bought by a larger digital agency about a year ago out of Amsterdam who's trying to move into the US. So I am sort of Rocket's marketing, but also eventually the US marketing arm of that agency called Depth. The goal is more awareness, I would say. I think Rocket has a pretty good profile within the immediate group of clients that they have or within the engineering community, but outside of that, I'm kind of thinking about how can we get this company and this name out a little bit more, and then figuring out how to get in front of new clients. It's just picking some spots, I think, and figuring out places where we can kind of increase the exposure that could bring in some potential business. My biggest challenge, I think, right now is trying to figure out which direction to go in because you're literally walking into a blank canvas. And so some days I feel like I'm going to submit 3 awards because I need to feel like I did a thing. And other days it's like, all right, let's think about like a 6-month kind of work back on like something that's a little bit more in depth. I'm trying to just tap into, okay, where does content make sense and what kind of content versus just thinking, oh my God, we need to have a blog and it needs to have this many posts per week because we need to have this much SEO because, I'm not trying to think about it like that. I'm trying to pick spots where certain parts of marketing will make sense. Like maybe we should have an event. Maybe this is a press release, but not feel so compelled to do everything. Definitely use data to come up with content. I think, what's being read, where are click-throughs happening, where are we seeing a lot of time spent on our current blog. And so when I took over content at Localytics, that was the first exercise I did, was look back at the prior year and said, what were people reading? Because I had a lot of assumptions of things that I thought weren't very good. And I would say some of those assumptions were right and some of them were wrong. And so it was helpful for me to ground myself in knowing, okay, regardless of my opinion, there is value in some of this content that I thought maybe was more just for search engines. I am the queen of, this feels really good though, that was such a cool infographic, and I still feel that way, but you have to have some measure of, did people care? Because often they don't always care about the things that feel the best. My previous roles have been selling to mostly marketers or digital folks or Brightcove video sides of things. Their clients are engineers. Their clients are VPs of products. That's a very different persona, and there is no BS that is going to fly in terms of that content. So I kind of keep preaching the substance has to really be there because that persona will sniff out if I've hacked my way through I read 3 articles on this. They'll sniff that out in 2 seconds. I think managers are everything, and I have been really, really lucky with the ones that I've had. People that build you up, people that push you at times when you might be comfortable or you might think you figured it out, and they find ways to keep you moving. That's hugely important, I think, in your ability to grow. But then you have to own your part of that too. I remember learning tough lessons about growing your career that I didn't like, about having to advocate for yourself. I'm not super comfortable like that. A lot of women aren't. But learning that that's something that you have to do in order to grow, in order to get opportunities. They don't just come because you're doing a good job. I wish that were the case. So I think I had the benefit of really good managers, but I knew early and understood that I had to own my part of it, and I had to push, and I had to find those opportunities for myself. And some of that is what's determined when I've left companies or when I've made moves, because I I felt like this is my chance now to go advance or to find some new challenges. I think when people don't have that or they don't feel supported, it can hold them back. It can put them in a place that's not super healthy, mentally and for all those reasons. So I've always tried to be a very hands-on manager, very supportive. And I like to use the Brightcove team as an example because that was my first foray of managing creative people, project managers, PR, very different personas. And I had to figure out how they all worked and how they wanted to be managed. And for some of them, our one-on-ones would be an hour of just brainstorming or just talking about things. And others, it was let's go through the task list because, that's just how people work. So I've always tried to make sure I was being supportive in whatever way people needed because I felt like I had that when I was coming up. I was really lucky. My first job out of college was to a woman-run company. And I think that made a big difference in just right away, that was the lens I saw a company being run, which was by a very intelligent, badass woman. And there were really intelligent other women within the company. So I think early on I found women that I thought were incredible, and I just tried to be a sponge to them. And I think that's something I recommend to people. And it doesn't have to be a woman thing, but I just think when you're young and it's all very overwhelming, like seeing somebody that looks like they have it all figured out and they're so smart, and it's just like, okay, how can I emulate some of that? How can I get that confidence? Some of it comes with time, but some of it just comes with figuring it out a little bit. So I think I was really lucky in that sense, but you face challenges all along the way, I think, as men do too, but there are just different things that women deal with. And even now, I'm, almost 20 years into a career, but I still learn ways that I could be a better leader. And a lot of that is sometimes I will not jump into an argument or a conversation just to be heard. Like, I'm very measured. And so when I weigh in, it's because I have something really important to say, but sometimes that can be seen as you're not present or you're not. So I think that's a challenge for women, is we're not, so much of your life, it's sort of like, please be quiet and smile. And that's changing a lot, but that's the reality. And so when you have to be somehow the loud voice in the room, it's really uncomfortable. I'm still not very good at it. I'm not sure I ever will be, but I think when you find the confidence in, I'm right, and I'm gonna make this point, and you can listen or not, but you have that confidence of, this is a really good point and someone needs to hear it and I'm gonna make it. And finding the venue to do it without feeling like you're just yelling over the group. That's hard. It's really hard, and I don't know if you ever totally nail it, but always having that inner dialogue to check yourself of am I not saying something right now because I'm worried it's not a good point, or I just don't know if it's gonna be received well. And I have worked a lot in the last few years of making myself interject or participate in a way that is a little bit uncomfortable for me, because that's where I think you grow and figure, oh, that wasn't that bad.